Hey there. It's good to have you here. If you're watching this, it means you value truth, or at the very least, you're curious about how easily truth can be bent, blurred, or buried under layers of distraction. Today, I want to take you deep into something subtle, something invisible, something weaponized by some of the most manipulative people alive. It's called misdirection, and while magicians have made it famous, scammers have made it devastating. This isn't about magic tricks, no sleight of hand for amusement, no pulling rabbits out of hats. This is about how psychological misdirection is used in real-world financial fraud, how it steals your attention long enough to steal your money, your time, even your trust in the systems you once believed were safe. We're going to unpack how it works, why it works, and most importantly, how you can train yourself to recognize it before it costs you everything. Because misdirection doesn't just make you look away, it makes you look exactly where the scammer wants you to. Let me start with a small, humbling moment of my own. Years ago, before I made a career out of exposing manipulation, I walked into a glossy investment seminar. The speaker was sharp, polished, magnetic. He told stories of struggling with debt, then rising to millions. He used charts, testimonials, video snippets. His whole pitch was dripping with success. But what stood out wasn't his numbers. It was the silence he used between sentences. The way he paused, looked you in the eye, then casually dropped something emotional. My mother cried the day I paid off her mortgage. The room went still. He wasn't showing us numbers anymore. He was showing us a dream. In that moment, no one asked about risks or licensing or who verified his returns. We were looking at the dream, and we never noticed the nightmare behind it. I lost some money, not enough to destroy me, but enough to wake me up. It wasn't the lie that fooled me. It was the story that redirected my attention. That's the power of misdirection. It doesn't hide the con. It hides your focus. Financial scammers today don't start with logic. They start with narrative. And that's the first key pattern I want to show you. The con artist doesn't hide the truth under facts. They bury it under emotion. They want you emotionally open, hopeful, afraid, inspired. They create urgency with ticking clocks, limited spots, special offers for the first 10 people. They give you just enough information to start painting your own picture. Then they let you fill in the rest. That's the misdirection. You think you're being convinced by data, but you're being led by emotion, away from the facts you're no longer looking for. It's the equivalent of someone asking you to focus on a coin in their right hand while their left hand is reaching into your pocket. Only in fraud, the coin is your dream. The hand is your own bias. There's a cognitive principle at play here called attentional blindness. Your brain, for all its power, has a spotlight. It can't take in every detail at once, so it chooses what feels most important. And scammers know exactly how to hijack that spotlight. They overemphasize one element, look at this 400% ROI, while quietly underplaying the red flags. Or they drown you in complexity. They use charts, acronyms, dense language, until you feel too embarrassed to admit you don't understand. So instead of asking, you defer. You trust. That's the second layer of misdirection. Overwhelm. It's not just distraction, it's strategic confusion. And in that fog, they operate. Have you ever noticed how the worst financial decisions are made when you're either too excited or too uncertain? That's not coincidence. That's design. Scammers don't just misdirect through language, they misdirect through design. Consider the classic pump and dump scheme. A penny stock gets flooded with fake hype. Articles appear, reviews get planted, YouTube channels uncover a hot new opportunity. The narrative is emotional. The next Amazon. Don't miss the rocket. But while everyone's eyes are on the rising price, the orchestrators are already unloading their shares. You looked at the wrong part of the chart. You saw movement, they saw manipulation, and by the time your focus returns to fundamentals, it's too late. The price collapses, the dream dissolves. Now let's go deeper into why this works, why our brains are so susceptible to these illusions. Humans evolved to act quickly on incomplete information. In the wild, hesitation meant danger. Today, that wiring is hijacked. A scammer flashes a result, tells you your chance is vanishing, shows someone else making it, and boom, you act. Because your brain still thinks the lion is behind you. Urgency is misdirection. Scarcity is misdirection. So is exclusivity. When someone says not everyone gets this offer, your brain translates that to I'm special if I do. It's not logic, it's identity. They're not just conning your mind, they're seducing your ego. And in that seduction, your scrutiny disappears. I once watched a man hand over $80,000 because a woman he'd met online, who by all logic was clearly a scammer, told him her visa was delayed and she'd be deported if he didn't wire the money. He told me later, I knew it sounded off, but what if I was wrong? What if she really needed me? You see, that's misdirection through hope, through guilt, through imagined loss. And here's what's wild. He did check her profile. He did do a reverse image search, but those were the rational parts of his brain working in the background, while the rest of him was consumed by a simple, planted idea. I could be her hero. When the con plays on your desire to feel needed, it doesn't matter how smart you are. It matters how focused you are, because even one blind spot, one gap in attention, is all it takes. Let's talk solutions, because awareness without action is useless. If misdirection is a manipulation of your focus, then your greatest defense is awareness of where your attention goes. That starts with questions, not big ones, small, consistent ones. Why am I being shown this? What am I not being told? What's the emotional hook here? When something feels urgent, ask who profits from my rush. When something feels too good, ask what part of me wants to believe this and why. This is not about paranoia. This is about pattern recognition. Because once you see the structure, you see through the spectacle. And here's the deeper work, something few talk about. Guarding against misdirection means you must confront the parts of yourself that want to be misdirected. The parts that want fast money, easy love, immediate success. We all have those parts, and scammers exploit them not because you're weak, but because you're human. So your best defense isn't just skepticism, it's self-awareness. When you know your own biases, they stop being levers in someone else's hands. In every video I make, I try to leave you with something practical. But this one's more than practical. It's psychological armor. Because once you internalize how misdirection works, once you train yourself to pause, to question, to redirect your own focus, you become harder to con. You begin to see the performance behind the pitch, the fear behind the urgency, the manipulation behind the smile. You don't just stop the scam, you stop feeding the system that allows it to thrive. Look, I don't speak from a place of superiority. I've been fooled, I've been dazzled, and I've watched others be ruined. That's why I do this, not to scare you, not to shame anyone, but because deception loses its power the moment we shine light on the technique. And misdirection, at its core, is technique. It's not magic, it's psychology, predictable, reversible, and most importantly, avoidable. So here's your task going forward. Become a student of focus. Train it, question it, notice when it drifts, because the next scam won't come waving red flags. It will come dressed in everything you've been conditioned to want, and the only thing standing between you and a mistake is your ability to see what others miss. Thanks for sticking with me. If this video gave you clarity, share it. Someone you know might be staring at the coin while the scammer reaches into their life. Let's teach them to look up, to look around, to see clearly. Stay sharp, stay grounded. I'll see you in the next one.